everything on this planet it can change, and we as humankind has a big influence on the future of that.
Sky-high bills that today soared further, and now the fear for millions. How long more can they cope? From October, the price suppliers can charge will rise from just under £2,000 to more than £3,500.
Milan, explain what is Enie.nl actually.
We make solar energy accessible to everyone. That's the main purpose.
You later went on to work together with Al Gore on a project.
I am Al Gore. I used to be the next president of the United States of America.
How was that?
This is the biggest crisis in the history of this country.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah.
But I did notice that the amount of friends, of course, it decreased rapidly. You used the word what a lot.
Right.
But you didn't mention the why.
Before we get started with today's video, I just want to take a quick moment to apologize. Sadly, throughout the recording of this episode with Milan, one of the cameras that was on Milan decided to stop. So I want to apologize in advance if you are watching this on a visual version. I'm gonna do better. I bought a third camera now so that this doesn't happen again. But I hope you enjoyed the show anyway.
Milan, thank you very much for inviting me into your beautiful office today. I was very impressed right away walking in here to see what giants you are in this building with. I like to start off all my podcast with the exact same question because I feel like it sets the tone for the rest of the conversation. And that question is, are you happy?
Yeah, I'm currently very happy, yeah.
What, in your opinion, is required to live a happy life?
Of course, it has a lot to do with finding your passion, but also still living with the unknown. It's not, at least I'm not happy if I live a life that is fixed or that you have your set goals and that you know that you will be able to achieve them. But also the space of the unknown is also quite attractive too.
Okay. So what makes you happy?
Right now I'm of course very focused on growing the business, but that's of course a very main objective. But if you layer that, you also find small things that I'm still learning a lot, and I can explore things that I am not very experienced in. And by doing that, I also get to know myself a lot better. That's what makes me quite happy at the moment, yeah.
Nice. You mentioned that passion is important. So how would you describe your passion?
Well, I think my passion is the core of everything I've done so far. So for me, it is really important. And my passion is very much linked to the climate change subject.
Okay. How did that passion occur?
Well, at a very young age, I was 13. I was still in my elderly home, of course. And I think together with my brother, Patrick, he was 16 at the moment. I think we were just playing on the PlayStation or so. And then our father, he asked if we could come downstairs and to watch a documentary. And it was the documentary of Al Gore, the former vice president of the US. And it was called An Inconvenient Truth. And the documentary was completely focused on the topic of climate change, setting the sense of urgency and all the consequences climate change would have on the mid and long term. And as a very young person, you see all these images, and that really made such an impression that from that moment on, after seeing the documentary weekends over and over again, together with my brother, we really felt the urge to do something about that problem. And of course, that later on has led to the founding of our own business.
In each podcast, I also have a standard question: who would you consider an influence? Now, in your case, you mentioned that it's quite clear it's Al Gore.
Yeah.
Why did that documentary have such an impact on you? What was it about this documentary specifically that at 13 even started triggering something?
Well, at least in my experience, when you're very young, you take everything for granted. So if you just play outside, it's really normal. But But that documentary really showed that everything on this planet is not for granted. It can change. It's not solid. And we as humankind has a big influence on the future of that. And because of that, I really felt the responsibility to play the right role in that part.
You later went on to actually work together with Al Gore on a project?
Yeah, we already started the business then, and we found out that during the business, because it was growing quite well, but we noticed that we were so completely focused on expanding the business that we forgot why we did it at the first place. And at the summer evening, we decided to write a letter to his organization and asked if it would be able to get a training of his organization, so that we could have even more knowledge on the topic and give presentations such like he did here in the Netherlands. And we found out that he had a leadership organization at the time, and we sent a letter, and I think after a week we got a reply that we were invited to go to Miami in the US and get trained by him personally.
How was that?
Yeah, it was amazing, because it was not only him that was involved in training, but also former advisors of Obama, for example. And yeah, he really made the problem very clear, and he also emphasized the role of the new generation. Of course, that really, we really felt it, of course.
Yeah,
and he gave us the means to send that message here in the Netherlands. So that was really useful and also very valuable, and that also helped us to get a good grasp of the why and the purpose of the organization, and of course linking it to the passion. And that helped us tremendously. Yeah.
Nice. How do you notice what you learned there in practice in your company today? Maybe it's actually better to first explain what is Enie.nl actually.
Well, Enie.nl is we make solar energy accessible to everyone. That's the main purpose. And that's something we do in the Netherlands. So we help people in going solar to generate their own renewable electricity on their own roofs. Something we do in the Netherlands, South Africa, Belgium, and later on also in Germany. So I think, we can be considered as the new utility company of the future.
Yeah.
So that's what we do. And to get back to the other question, it helped us in a way because it was, I think, 6 years ago.
Right.
So a lot of people, they knew about the problem of climate change, but they were not that familiar with it.
Yeah.
So we decided from that moment on, we should give a lot of presentations to get an audience, to tell them about the big problem. And by that, we created a sense of urgency in which people became activated and tried to find things they could do in their own lives to contribute to the solution of that big problem. And of course, we provide solutions for that.
Yeah.
So that helped us indirectly in growing our own business. And also, if you really have a company that has a clear why, a clear purpose, we also notice and experience that it attracts people with that same purpose and passion. So it's like an energetic way of marketing, that you attract the right people in your own business, but also in forms of customer.
Yeah, because I think with that you pretty much answer my next question, which was how important is it to have a purpose-driven mission to guide your business decisions?
Well, if I tell you to do something, then of course you as a person will be able to do that. But if I tell you why it is important that you do it, it generates more motivation, and that's something we notice as a business as well. If you really define your purpose, why you do the things you do, and also, for example, make your employees part of that, then it generates an extra form of energy and motivation for them to work even harder and be ambitious themselves. And these are, it's just one small example, but these are elements that in the end contributes to to, in my opinion, a bigger growth of the company.
Right. Obviously, in the past 5 years, I would say in particular, you've seen a lot more of these social companies pop up here and there. What is your experience with that as to, like in your case, you have a very clear pinpoint, right? You can say, look, this is when we were inspired. This is why we're doing this. There's a story behind also why you're tackling this challenge. Yeah. Not all of these social companies do that. What is your experience with like corporate greenwashing, I guess, when it comes to that people are trying to leverage something which they're not really 100% behind, because in reality, it still comes down to profit?
Well, so what you're asking is whether being a social entrepreneur or a company is a marketing tool, or whether it's really authentic.
Yeah.
And I think to make it authentic, it all starts with the founders, in my opinion. Because they create a fundament on which decision making is based on. So, for example, what we do in our company is we inspire people in making better decisions that contribute to tackling climate change, not only on energy, but also for example, food. So if you open the fridge here, you will not find meat. It's not something we force them to do, but for example, we inspired to do it with documentaries and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So in that way, it really becomes in the DNA of the company.
Yeah.
What you also see is that a lot of companies, they just put the label sustainable on their website and write some pages on it, and that's it.
Yeah.
So it's really important for the customer to also be very critical. So if you tell me that your company is very sustainable, okay, in what way can you prove it? In what way are you really sustainable?
Yeah.
So I think the customer in the end really decides whether a company proves itself sustainable or not, and whether it's just a marketing effort or really it's in the DNA of the company.
When it is in the DNA of the company, I've come to experience that especially sustainable companies are even more scrutinized by others, or people trying to find ways to say, you're not actually sustainable. Yeah. Do you feel that pressure? And if so, how do you deal with that added pressure, I guess?
Well, I think it's not only on a sustainable topic, but if you really spread the message of being something, if you do that a lot, and if you really get a stage to do that, people will try to criticize it more than others. So it's not only about sustainable energy or being sustainable. It's just about the fact that you are quite big and that you are on a stage, for example, and that encourages people to become critical. Just look on what's happening on social media, for example. Yeah. So I don't think it's really linked to the sustainability topic, but just the way people work in general.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Once you become known for a topic.
Exactly. Then they try to find gaps.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You started this company with your brother.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
How important is it to have a co-founder?
Well, I think it's one of the success factors of this company that we did it with the two of us, and also that it's family related. Because we can talk a lot about the successes the company has, but of course, we also had a lot of challenges on the road. And in these really difficult times, it helps that you have someone that's really close to you and to inspire each other to move forward. I think if we would not have done it with the two of us, then with some challenges, we were most likely dropped out.
Yeah.
In that sense. So it really is one of the success factors of this company.
Yeah.
Although I have a lot of stories in my environment that family businesses do not work at all.
Well, that's a follow-up question.
Okay,
How is it to work with family indeed?
Well, I think in that way, the most important element is that the reason the company is founded is that we saw the documentary of Al Gore with the two of us.
Yeah.
So we both were inspired with the same topic. So there was no hidden agenda or something. We both had the same vision and passion. So, and when you're just on the same page, no hidden agendas, no egos or stuff like that, then I think if you have two founders, it becomes synergetic instead of competitive.
Yeah. Fair enough. I couldn't imagine it for myself, but
no, what I say, I have a lot of stories.
In your case. Yeah, exactly. So since recent, you've had investments from the likes of Shell and ABP, right?
Yeah.
So that obviously means you had to pitch your story to them, right?
Well, it went a little bit different because we were just in another growing phase of the company. So we were trying to attract some money from the market. And via, we got in contact with Shell Ventures.
Right.
And based on that, the contact was established.
Right.
So it's not really that we focused on them in becoming an investor in the company, that we pitched it.
Yeah.
It went really organic.
Right.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, when pitching to these, or well, I don't want to call you get what I mean.
Yeah.
Pitching to these, let's say, big time investors, do you ever struggle with imposter syndrome in those situations?
Yeah. In what way?
In the sense of that you doubt, like, who am I? You know, do I really know what I'm talking about? I guess.
Yeah. Of course, you have that. You always have that a little bit. But it was not. We also sensed that if we would attract Shell Ventures as an investor in the company, it's not only a milestone for the company itself, but also a milestone for the transition we work for. Is that a fossil fuel-based company originally decides to invest in a solar energy company?
Right.
So
it's not just an achievement for you; it's also for them an achievement.
Yeah, exactly, and also for the big energy transition we face. That companies with that size, that they try to become part of that in this way, a solar energy transition, and that they become part of the solution instead of becoming part of a problem.
Yeah.
So we also really kept that in mind. And we are very convinced about the organization we have, and also about the importance of the solution we provide.
Yeah.
And I think that really motivated us in getting that investor on board. Yeah.
So how important is confidence in running your business in general? Would you classify it as confidence or just self-belief?
Well, I think the most important part is that you have really ambitious goals that from the current point of view sometimes feel unachievable, but that you know that if you really work hard and overcome some boundaries, that you will be able to achieve it. And you need a lot of confidence for that. But you also need a little bit of uncertainty for that, because if you have uncertainty, then you are most likely to work harder.
Right.
So in that way, I think you need both.
Right. Yeah. It sounds very much like this uncomfortable zone, right? You need to
exactly,
or growing mindset, basically. Okay.
Yeah, true.
With the increase of capital, I'm guessing the increase in pressure also goes up, right? Or pressure also increases, basically.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
Well, of course you have a big pressure in performing your business, but that's something that's a feeling we had also beforehand. But for us, it really means that we can really be able to increase our impact with going to different countries. So it's more like a pressure. How can we make sure that in short periods of time we really increase our impact, finding new ways to grow, So it's I think, in my opinion, it's a positive form of pressure.
Yeah.
It's not a form of pressure that I think, okay, now I have to make sure that I don't make any mistakes or something like that.
Yeah.
No, it's really a positive form of pressure.
Right.
But that's also, I think, a mindset.
In general, from all the responses you've given so far, it sounds like you don't let a lot of these typical things get to you very quickly, or
No,
where does that mental strength come from?
yeah, and maybe in the start of the company, I was way more sensitive for that. But it's something I think I've learned personally, that you have to become a little bit hardened on that. Focus on the things you can influence, and do not focus on the things you cannot influence.
Yeah.
Don't focus on the opinions of other. Of course, make sure that people can criticize you.
Yeah.
But just stick to your own vision and ideas. So I think that's something I think I have developed, in the past couple of years.
Right. From my own experience, I have struggled often with also societal pressure. And I've talked to a lot of people that I have thoughts about starting my own business, and then they don't even necessarily say it, but you just sort of feel the doubt, like, should you be doing that? Is that smart? Is that the safe road? In your case, at 28, you're running what to me at least feels like a massive company.
Yeah.
How has your experience been in that part? Like, yeah.
Well, I don't know better.
Right, yeah.
Because I started when I was 18 years doing the studies.
Yeah.
So it's my point of reference to have an own business.
Yeah.
I think I will have a big crisis if this ends, for example, if
Yeah.
I have to find another job.
Yeah.
But the thing, you mentioned something that you feel some social pressure, is I felt social pressure in a way that a lot of people, at least when I was very young, like 21, everyone was partying and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I always was the guy, I back
Working.
off, I work.
Yeah.
So, and that was a way of social pressure that people did not understand it.
No.
Sometimes it felt like I was a top sporter or a top athlete.
Yeah.
So that was the social pressure I felt. And of course, if I look back, having a company is of course very nice, and I developed myself in very many ways. But of course, I did not have that study period when you had a lot of partying going on, finding new social contacts, or when going abroad, for example.
Yeah.
So that's something I really missed out of.
Yeah.
So that's a big con of having a business at a very young age.
Do you regret that?
Well, I think I have to do it all over again
Right.
in my 30s, maybe.
Yeah.
So in that way, I think I really have a big midlife crisis coming up.
Yeah.
But if I look to where we are at right now, I would never have. I never wanted to miss out on this this adventure. No.
Right.
No, it was all worth it.
Yeah.
Saying no to all these people was worth it in the end.
Yeah. Has that concept to me sounds like delayed gratification. Like you're working on something, so you're pushing the instant gratification, what you would get if you would go out and party, and you're waiting for the results later. That realization of I'm missing out on that, has that adapted your life in any way since? Like, have you maybe become calmer, or is it still the exact same as you were then?
Well, at that time, I really, for me, it was not difficult to focus on that long-term goal. For my surrounding, it was more difficult.
Okay.
So I think, I was so focused on this. So for me, it was the problem.
Yeah.
But I did notice that my the amount of friends, of course, it decreased rapidly.
Yeah.
So I right now I have a very close group of friends that are not. I do not have a lot of them.
Yeah.
But the friends that I have and kept, these are really good friends. Really good friendships. So for me, it wasn't a problem to do that. And right now, I'm still in the same position. I still have big ambitions.
Yeah.
So it's for me, it's not hard to say no to people in my social environment. No, it has not changed.
Is there an end goal here? And what do you think happens if that is achieved?
Well, the end goal is. I try not to make that very clear. I'd like to focus on mid goals.
Of course, yeah.
What I would really, my biggest goal is that we really have an international solar energy company that helped people to switch to solar energy, and that we have made a big impact on the energy transition, and that we're also an example companies for people that are not necessarily in our sector. So that's the big goal for me. And in the midterm, that means that you set goals for new countries to launch in. And I really don't know where it ends. It can end that we maybe merge with other companies, but that's something I'm not focusing on. You have all this. You can plan all these scenarios.
Yeah.
But I've had a lot of scenarios. But if I look back, none of them came true. So it's not something I'd like to focus on.
Right. It sounds to me like you're very stuck in the present, looking to the future, but you are very here and now.
Yeah, but the decisions I make today determines the future, of course.
Yeah. Do you believe in that whole mindfulness and staying present and that, or are you not really?
Well, now I think, in my opinion, you still have to focus on your long-term goals, or at least try to form them or to divine them a little bit. Yeah. So it's not only about present and short-term decision making, but in the end, it's really important to reflect to the current situation you are in. And based on that, focus on the gap that is between your current situation and the goals you have in the future. And based on that, you formulate your actions and things you need to work on. Yeah. So you need to have both present and a clear vision, to divine the gap that's in between and to develop further. Yeah.
In your vision of the future for Enie.nl, is it still with you and your brother at the realm? At the reins?
For now, I think yes. I think for the coming years, yes. But you never know how the company develops itself. And maybe it comes at a stage that I'm not the right person anymore. Maybe it comes at a stage that's really big and that you need very big managers instead of big entrepreneurial mindset. But I do not have a big ego to say that I will stick in my position, and I'm also more than willing, if it's in the interest of the company, to find another position. That's
right.
That's fine. Yeah, but I think the founders are still a big success factor of the company.
Of course, yeah. No, you are entitled to believe that. Of course, that's probably true. And I'm just trying to establish also for myself. You mentioned ego now twice, also with in relation to working together with your brother. Yeah. Is there like a life lesson there as far as ego in business?
Well, I think a lot of people can come very far with having a big ego. Yeah. You can even become president of the United States with it. But in the long term, I think you have to, your vision should be central in your decision making, and not your personal ego. Yeah. Personal ego is always short term. Yeah. And growing a sustainable company has to do with long-term decision making.
Yeah. Obviously, the podcast is called The Quarter Life Crisis.
Yeah.
But with you being 28, it doesn't sound to me like you had a quarter life crisis.
Well, no, maybe in another way.
Okay. And what way was that?
Well, as I mentioned earlier on, I'm fully aware that I missed out on some parts
Right.
that normal people already experienced.
Yeah.
But also, when you start your own company, you have to do a lot of things because at first you are your marketing department, you are your sales department,
you're
you do
everyone.
everything.
Yeah.
And it helped me in finding the things that I like to do and also find the things I'm good at. But also, 4 years ago, I was more involved in the delivery and service side of the organization. And I found out that that's not something I really like to do on the long term.
Yeah.
And so I switched to the other parts of the organization. So now I'm fully busy on the marketing side and the digital side of the organizations.
Right.
Because that's something I sensed I like to do better and also think I'm better at in doing. So that's a switch I was able to make. Also because it's my own company, so it's more easy to switch. But that's something that I found out that, because having an organization at a young age and you're still not knowing what you would really like to do later on, it happened to me as well.
Right.
But I was more able to reply to that challenge because I can switch around in this company very easily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To what extent do you believe luck is necessary, or luck has played a role in your story so far?
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people get the same amount of luck and also challenges. And in my opinion, it has to do with how you exploit your luck that you get on your road, and also how you deal with the challenges that you will get on the road. And based on that, it's decided whether you become successful or whether, it's not becoming successful. So once again, it's combined. But I do believe that sometimes with a lot of luck, you can you can get very successful. But I really think it's more important to see how someone has dealt with the challenges.
Right.
So I think the way you deal with challenges is more important than luck, in my opinion. Yeah.
Interviewed a few people now, especially the founders. They mentioned that a few times now, that within businesses you're going to fail a ton.
Yeah.
Now, school, especially the traditional school like primary school, high school and stuff, bachelors in the Netherlands a bit less, but even they are still questionable. They don't necessarily build you up for rewarding you for failing. Instead, it is the more answers you memorize correctly, the higher grades you get. What or where did your acceptingness of failure come from? Is that again just another natural quality, or?
Well, I think being an entrepreneur, and that's also once again related to the uncertainty topic, you have to experiment a lot. And you have to find the sweet spot, for example, in your propositions, in the way you organize your company. So you have to experiment a lot. And because you are quite a small company, you are able to make mistakes. And by making mistakes, I think we were able to find the right solutions that has helped us in expanding the business.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, experimenting, that comes, and of course you have failures that come along with that process, is really necessary, especially for a startup, to become successful. Yeah, so it should be embedded more in the educational system, of course.
Yeah,
and then you have failure as a person, and of course failure in business decision making.
Yeah.
So these are two separate things.
Right.
But I think it's really important to fail sometimes.
Yeah. So one of the other reasons why I, again, started this podcast is because I found myself now graduated from my master, all of a sudden this sea of opportunities. And also in my case, sea of interest. So there's a fortune of things that I could focus on, like some are obviously higher interest than others. And I feel like that's one of the most recurring problems that other people that I've talked to have as well, that they can't really figure out what to follow. Do you have any advice? In your case, it seems like it was very clear since 13, okay, this is what we're going to do, more or less. Do you have any advice when it comes to figuring out which path to follow?
Well, you used a lot. You used the word "what" a lot,
Right?
But you didn't mention the why.
Right. Yeah.
So you focus a lot on the questions: what do I like to do, instead of why do I do the things I do?
Yeah.
So, and if you did not answer the why question yourself, I think then it's really difficult to find out what the answer is to the what question. So I think you have to take one step back,
Right? Yeah.
and to try to find, okay, what context do I like to work in? Why do I find certain topics interesting? Why would I like to contribute to, for example, maybe a big transition in the world?
Yeah.
And also link it the way you are as a person instead of the way you are as a business person.
Right.
And I think if you answer that question, then you will be able to answer the question of what you would like to do. For example, marketing or service has become more easy. Yeah.
Right. I think that's amazing advice. You're first person, at least, who said it that specifically.
Okay.
I'm already at my last question. Yeah, and that is, what does the future hold for Milan?
Well, I'm now 28, so I'm still relatively young. But in the end, I also would like to have a new challenge in my life. I'm not willing to have this business till the day I die.
Yeah.
So I also would like to focus on different topics. So for now, I focus on growing this company, try to develop myself in that process. Every day I learn new things, so that's a good thing. But I also keep track on my feeling, if I feel that I have done my part in this expansion and that I do not feel that I contribute enough anymore.
Yeah.
And if that happens, then it's also important that you make a decision to do something differently. But people ask, what will you do if you stop with this company? Then I think I will take a very long break. And then I
Go to student life.
I think so.
Yeah.
And then I think I will just try to get back to my feeling in my heart to see where it will bring me.
Right.
But then I need a lot of free time for that.
Yeah.
Because I'm so occupied on this adventure at the moment. So I really don't know, but I will do something in the transition to a better world.
Yeah.
And right now I'm doing it in the field of energy, but we also have big challenges in the food industry as well.
Plenty.
So
yeah.
it has to be in a domain that really is very progressive and that can really contribute to the solution of the big climate crisis we face right now.
Right.
Yeah.
You are a very inspiring person, I want to say that.
Oh, well, thank you.
I'm very impressed. Also, I don't think I know many people that have known this clearly and are this hyper-focused on achieving something. And for that, I want to commend you for everything you've already achieved.
Thank you.
I want to thank you again for your time. And with that...
You're more than welcome. It was lovely having you here. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.